The realm of true crime offers listeners a unique glimpse into the depths of human nature and the darkness that can hide behind a charismatic smile. In this podcast episode, we begin our journey by examining the notorious figure H. Holmes and the eerie legacy of his so-called Murdercastle. At a time when Chicago was emerging as a center of industrial might and cultural transformation, Holmes managed to weave a web of charm and deceit that allowed him to perpetrate crimes on a scale that still resonates in the annals of criminal history. His life, marked by cunning and duplicity, serves as a stark reminder that evil can sometimes thrive in the shadows of progress and ambition. As we delve into this story, it is essential to understand the historical backdrop that provided the fertile ground for such a figure to emerge. The late 19th century was an era of rapid change, where the promises of modernity were intermingled with the fear of the unknown. In a bustling metropolis full of opportunity and innovation, the darker undercurrents of society could easily be overlooked by a public enamored with the promise of a new age. During this period of social transformation and economic boom, many were swept up by the optimism of progress, yet few could have imagined that a man like Holmes would exploit this very atmosphere to cloak his sinister ambitions. Born as Herman Webster Mudgett, he not only capitalized on the excitement of a rapidly modernizing America but also engineered an elaborate scheme that blended architectural ingenuity with a calculated disregard for human life. The construction of his infamous Murdercastle was not merely a physical endeavor but a metaphor for the duality of human existence, where the outward appearance of sophistication can conceal a labyrinth of unspeakable horrors. The building, with its hidden passages, secret rooms, and deceptive design, quickly became synonymous with fear and mystery, symbolizing how beauty and brutality can coexist in unexpected ways. In recounting the early chapters of this chilling tale, it becomes apparent that the allure of true crime lies not in sensationalizing evil but in uncovering the layers of context that allow such darkness to flourish. This narrative invites us to reflect on the intricate interplay between societal progress and the hidden impulses of human nature. It challenges us to consider how environments of rapid change may inadvertently provide cover for those who would exploit the hopes of a nation. The story of H. Holmes is more than just a series of grisly acts. It is an exploration of how a man's ambition and the cultural atmosphere of his time can combine to create a legacy that endures far beyond his own lifetime. By revisiting this haunting chapter of American history, we aim to foster a deeper understanding of the complexities that drive individuals to commit acts of cruelty and to appreciate the historical context that both enables and condemns such behavior. Ultimately, this exploration serves as an invitation to engage with history in a way that is both intellectually rigorous and sensitive to the real human tragedies behind the headlines. H. Holmes, born Herman Webster Mudgett, remains one of the most enigmatic and sinister figures in American criminal history. His early life was marked by a curious blend of ambition and charm that belied the darkness simmering beneath his polished exterior. Raised in a modest environment, Holmes exhibited early signs of intellectual brilliance and a persuasive nature that would later serve him well in his criminal enterprises. As he grew older, he carefully cultivated an image of refinement and sophistication that allowed him to navigate high society and win the trust of influential individuals. This carefully constructed persona enabled him to move seamlessly through various circles, from business elites to hopeful immigrants, all of whom were unaware of the true nature of the man behind the charming smile. Holmes's education played a pivotal role in shaping his ability to deceive. In an era when formal schooling was becoming increasingly important, he leveraged his education not only to better himself but also to create a veneer of legitimacy. This educational background, combined with his natural charisma, made him appear as a man of the world, sophisticated and trustworthy. However, behind this mask of respectability, Holmes harbored a proclivity for manipulation and deceit that would eventually lead him down a path of gruesome criminality. By adopting various aliases and reinventing his identity as circumstances demanded, he was able to engage in numerous fraudulent schemes and scams, each one laying the groundwork for his later, more notorious deeds. As Holmes ventured further into the realm of crime, he began to demonstrate a chilling capacity for cruelty that shocked those who eventually discovered the full extent of his actions. His criminal endeavors evolved from simple scams to elaborate and calculated schemes that involved not only financial fraud but also the orchestration of events designed to mask his true intentions. Holmes was a master at reading people and situations, exploiting vulnerabilities with precision and foresight. His ability to adapt to the shifting landscapes of urban life in a rapidly modernizing America allowed him to capitalize on the chaos and opportunity presented by the bustling cities of the era. Throughout his career, Holmes maintained a constant air of mystery. Even as suspicions and rumors about his activities began to circulate, he managed to stay one step ahead of the authorities. His life was a continuous performance, a delicate balance of charm and menace, where every smile concealed a calculated move towards furthering his dark ambitions. The legacy of H. Holmes is a disturbing reminder of how an individual can use intellect, education, and charisma to camouflage the most nefarious aspects of human nature. His story is not only a tale of personal depravity but also a reflection of a society in transition, where the promise of progress and the shadows of exploitation could coexist in unsettling harmony. The bustling city of Chicago, a place where ambition and opportunity converged in a vibrant tapestry of progress, became the stage for H. Holmes's fateful arrival. In an era defined by rapid industrialization and urban rebirth following the devastation of the Great Chicago Fire, the city offered a fresh canvas upon which dreams could be realized. Holmes stepped into this dynamic environment with an air of unshakable confidence and charm that masked the darker purposes he harbored. The city's streets, filled with hopeful immigrants, entrepreneurs, and visionaries, were alive with the promise of reinvention and prosperity. Amid the clamor of construction and innovation, Holmes quickly recognized that Chicago was not just a backdrop for economic expansion, but also a fertile ground for those willing to exploit its vulnerabilities. Embracing the city's pulsating energy, Holmes deftly inserted himself into Chicago's intricate social fabric. He cultivated connections with influential business figures and key players in the rapidly evolving urban scene. His approach was both strategic and charismatic, as he navigated the labyrinth of emerging opportunities with a calculated blend of warmth and reserve. Through deliberate interactions and carefully crafted conversations, Holmes projected an image of a reliable entrepreneur, someone who could be trusted to facilitate lucrative ventures and secure valuable real estate. His early days in the city were marked by an eagerness to learn the rhythms of Chicago's booming economy, and he paid close attention to the subtle interplay between optimism and the inherent chaos of a metropolis in transition. In the midst of Chicago's transformation, the impending Columbian Exposition loomed large as a symbol of modernity and progress. This grand event, designed to showcase America's technological advancements and cultural renaissance, drew visitors and investors alike, all eager to witness the city's rebirth. Holmes understood that the same enthusiasm driving the city's forward march could also serve as a powerful veil for more nefarious pursuits. As he mingled with the city's elite and common folk alike, his demeanor was disarming, a careful balance of friendliness and an unspoken promise of opportunity. This delicate act allowed him to blend into a society that was too busy celebrating its bright future to notice the subtle hints of menace beneath his polished exterior. Every handshake and conversation in Chicago became part of Holmes's elaborate performance, laying the groundwork for the construction of a legacy that would soon spiral into infamy. His arrival was not merely a relocation, it was the inception of a complex charade where the allure of success was interwoven with the shadows of deceit. In this new environment, every business proposition and social interaction served as both a stepping stone toward prosperity and a carefully laid trap for the unwary. Over time, the very streets that celebrated Chicago's resilience and innovation would become silent witnesses to the unfolding of a dark chapter. A chilling reminder that behind every promising new beginning, hidden dangers may lurk. Under the looming shadow of ambition and the promise of reinvention, the infamous structure known as the Murdercastle began as an ambitious architectural project that would soon hide a myriad of dark secrets. H. Holmes, with his uncanny ability to charm and manipulate, saw the opportunity to create not just a building, but a labyrinth of hidden passages and cunning contraptions designed to serve his nefarious ends. The castle was not the product of a spontaneous idea, but rather the result of careful planning, engineering ingenuity, and a willingness to challenge conventional design. Holmes assembled a team of architects and laborers, many of whom were unaware of the true intentions behind the project, and set about constructing a building that would eventually confound both the public and the authorities. Every element of the design was meticulously crafted to appear legitimate on the surface while concealing secret rooms, trapdoors, and narrow passageways that led to even more sinister spaces. The exterior of the building, with its imposing facade and tasteful decor, was meant to project an image of respectability and sophistication. Yet behind its walls, a completely different reality awaited. Holmes was not interested in merely creating a home or a business. He envisioned a complex structure where each room and corridor could serve multiple, covert purposes. There were areas specifically designed to isolate guests, as well as hidden compartments intended to store incriminating evidence and even the remains of those who would become entangled in his deadly game. The construction process itself was shrouded in secrecy. Holmes employed workers who were either unaware of the building's true purpose or intimidated into silence, ensuring that no details of the project would reach the public domain. As the structure took shape, the layout grew increasingly convoluted, with stairwells that led to dead ends and corridors that twisted into hidden chambers. Holmes's ambition was to create a fortress of deception, one where the lines between legitimate business operations and murderous intent were artfully blurred. The building's design incorporated features that would later confuse investigators, with passages that seemed to exist solely to disorient and mislead anyone attempting to piece together the truth. Even as construction progressed, the Murdercastle began to take on a life of its own. Its many quirks and hidden spaces became emblematic of a mind dedicated to both elaborate planning and ruthless execution. The result was a structure that, on the surface, looked like a grand hotel or office building, yet within its walls, a network of dark secrets lay waiting to be discovered. This duality of appearance and purpose was the hallmark of Holmes's genius, a chilling demonstration of how architectural innovation could be repurposed for the most heinous of crimes, leaving a legacy that continues to fascinate and horrify those who dare to explore its history. In designing the infamous Murdercastle, H. Holmes embraced architecture not merely as a means to construct a building but as an essential instrument in his elaborate scheme of terror. His design philosophy was rooted in the belief that the outward appearance of sophistication could so effectively mask hidden dangers that unsuspecting visitors would never suspect the dark reality beneath. At first glance, the structure presented itself as a modern, upscale establishment, a hotel or office building that exuded elegance and refinement. Yet, behind its polished facade lay a labyrinth of secret corridors, concealed rooms, and trapdoors that served as the very backbone of Holmes's nefarious plans. Every aspect of the building's layout was meticulously crafted to mislead and disorient. Hidden passageways were ingeniously integrated behind false walls and behind bookshelves, allowing Holmes to move undetected from one area to another. Staircases tucked away in unexpected corners led to secluded basements and shadowy attics, where unspeakable deeds could be carried out far from the prying eyes of the public. The design was a study in duality. The public spaces were inviting and sophisticated, while the private sections were dark and foreboding. This deliberate contrast ensured that while the exterior of the building inspired trust and admiration, its inner workings were a testament to calculated cruelty. Holmes did not stop at merely creating secret routes. He manipulated space, light, and sound to further confound any attempt to understand the building's true nature. Narrow, winding corridors twisted unpredictably, creating a sense of isolation and disorientation. Rooms were configured in such a way that they seemed to change purpose with every turn, and strategically placed dead ends added to the feeling of entrapment. This convoluted network was not simply a byproduct of poor planning but a deliberate design choice meant to delay discovery and hinder escape. In this way, the building itself became an accomplice in Holmes's crimes, serving as a physical manifestation of the chaos and terror he sought to impose. The Murdercastle's architectural brilliance extended to its subtle details, each of which played a critical role in concealing its true function. The deliberate use of hidden mechanisms and misleading floor plans created an environment where every shadow and every quiet corner could harbor a deadly secret. Visitors, drawn in by the promise of modernity and progress, found themselves navigating a maze that seemed benign at first but gradually revealed layers of deception. This seamless blending of attractive design and lethal function underscored Holmes's genius, as he transformed what appeared to be a promising architectural venture into a tool for unspeakable horror. Ultimately, the building stood as a paradox, a symbol of the era's optimism and innovation, yet also a monument to the depths of human depravity. Through his cunning use of architecture, Holmes turned a construction project into a meticulously designed instrument of terror, leaving behind a legacy of dark ingenuity that continues to fascinate and horrify those who delve into its history. Holmes was a man of extraordinary cunning, and his methods were as calculated as they were disturbing. At the heart of his approach was an ability to identify and exploit the vulnerabilities of those around him. With an almost predatory precision, he would carefully study his potential victims, noting their habits, desires, and fears. Through meticulous observation and an acute understanding of human nature, he was able to tailor his approach to suit each individual, ensuring that his charm and persuasive tactics worked effectively on a wide spectrum of targets. Holmes employed a variety of techniques to gain the trust of his would-be victims. He often presented himself as a refined gentleman with impeccable manners and a genuine interest in the welfare of others. This carefully constructed persona was his most powerful tool, allowing him to ingratiate himself with influential figures as well as ordinary citizens. His demeanor exuded confidence and reliability, making it difficult for anyone to suspect that beneath the surface lay a mind driven by malevolent intent. Once trust was established, Holmes would then manipulate circumstances to isolate his victims, creating scenarios where they felt safe yet were unknowingly entrapped in his web of deceit. In many cases, Holmes orchestrated meetings and arranged social gatherings in which he could further assess the vulnerabilities of those he encountered. He often targeted individuals who were in a state of emotional or financial distress, knowing that such conditions made them more susceptible to his manipulations. Through subtle suggestions and a gradual buildup of dependency, he led his targets into a false sense of security. This process of gradual coercion was both artful and insidious, leaving the victims with little opportunity to recognize the impending danger until it was too late. Moreover, Holmes was a master at creating environments that facilitated his dark ambitions. His establishment, with its labyrinthine design and hidden compartments, served as an extension of his psychological tactics. The confusing layout of secret corridors and secluded rooms not only provided him with the perfect setting for his crimes but also hindered any efforts to understand the full scope of his operations. Each physical space was deliberately designed to disorient and isolate, further enhancing the effectiveness of his methods. The very architecture of his surroundings became a silent accomplice in his heinous acts, allowing him to operate with near impunity. Ultimately, the success of Holmes's methods lay in their seamless integration into the fabric of everyday life. His approach was not marked by overt violence, but by a subtle, calculated manipulation of trust and circumstance. By blending charm with an ever-present undercurrent of menace, Holmes was able to commit his crimes without raising immediate suspicion. His tactics remain a chilling reminder of how an individual's ability to exploit human psychology can be weaponized to devastating effect, leaving a legacy that continues to captivate and caution those who study the darker aspects of human behavior. Holmes's approach to selecting his victims was as calculated as it was ruthless, revealing a disturbing pattern in the profiles of those he chose to ensnare. In his dark world, the vulnerable were never a matter of chance but the result of careful, almost clinical observation. Holmes focused on individuals who were isolated by circumstance, often those burdened by financial insecurity, emotional instability, or the desperate hope for a fresh start in the bustling, ever-changing environment of Chicago. These were people who, in the midst of urban chaos and rapid modernity, found themselves adrift and in search of stability. Holmes recognized that their need for connection and reassurance could be manipulated, and he adeptly presented himself as both a benefactor and a trustworthy confidant, ensuring that his true intentions remained shrouded in a cloak of benevolence. The selection process was not random, it was marked by a systematic evaluation of each potential victim's vulnerabilities. Holmes was adept at reading subtle cues, identifying those who seemed lonely, those who were struggling to navigate the complexities of a rapidly industrializing society, and those whose desperation made them less guarded. By establishing personal rapport and gaining the confidence of his targets, he created an environment where his manipulation could take root without resistance. His charm, combined with an uncanny ability to mirror the hopes and dreams of his victims, allowed him to isolate them from their support systems. In these moments of isolation, the victim's critical judgment was impaired, making them more susceptible to his deceitful promises. In many cases, the individuals he targeted were already facing hardships or uncertainties, making them ideal candidates for a predator who specialized in preying on human frailty. Holmes would exploit their inherent need for security by offering solutions that seemed tailored to their immediate problems, all while concealing the sinister motives behind his proposals. This method of incremental entrapment was designed to dissolve any initial skepticism and replace it with a misplaced sense of trust. His interactions were marked by a gradual buildup of dependency. As the relationship deepened, his victims became increasingly isolated, both emotionally and socially, effectively severing their ties to any potential lifelines. Furthermore, the diversity in the victim profiles underscored a chilling adaptability. Whether it was a financially desperate individual seeking a way out of hardship or someone emotionally adrift in a sprawling metropolis, Holmes's modus operandi remained consistent: identify, charm, and isolate. The urban landscape of Chicago, with its constant influx of hopeful newcomers and the inherent challenges of adapting to a new life, provided him with a steady stream of potential targets. His ability to integrate into the fabric of society while masking his true identity ensured that even those who might have been more discerning were drawn into his meticulously constructed trap. Ultimately, Holmes's victim selection process was a calculated exploitation of human vulnerability, reflecting both his personal depravity and the darker side of a society undergoing profound transformation. The early stages of the investigation into the mysterious occurrences at the infamous Murdercastle were shrouded in uncertainty and quiet alarm. Law enforcement officials first began to notice subtle discrepancies that did not fit the pristine image of a modern, upscale establishment. As whispers of missing persons and unexplained disappearances reached local authorities, a few dedicated detectives embarked on a cautious inquiry, determined to piece together a puzzle that many in the community preferred to ignore. Initial clues were fragmented and often dismissed as mere coincidences in a bustling city that prided itself on progress and innovation. However, the accumulating reports of individuals who had vanished after visiting the building soon compelled investigators to look closer. Eyewitnesses recounted strange noises echoing through empty corridors and brief glimpses of concealed rooms that seemed to defy the building's orderly exterior. These unsettling observations, though isolated at first, gradually formed a pattern that could not be easily explained away. Detectives encountered significant resistance from those closely associated with the castle. Employees and local business partners, many of whom had long-standing ties to the establishment, were reticent and evasive when questioned about the irregularities. This reluctance only heightened suspicions, suggesting that there might be a deliberate effort to obscure the truth. As the investigation deepened, investigators uncovered irregular modifications in the building's structure, hidden passages, sealed-off compartments, and obscure architectural features that seemed designed to confound any routine inspection. Such anomalies provided tangible evidence that the building's layout was more complex and more sinister than anyone had initially presumed. Further complicating the inquiry were discrepancies in the building's official records and financial documents. The discovery of forged property titles and dubious financial transactions hinted at a broader scheme of deception, one that extended beyond the physical architecture and into the realm of organized fraud. Forensic experts were brought in to analyze these documents, and their findings suggested that the Murdercastle had been used as a cover for activities that defied legal explanation. Despite these breakthroughs, investigators struggled with the challenge of gathering reliable evidence. The case was marred by an atmosphere of intimidation and silence, with potential witnesses wary of speaking out for fear of retribution from influential figures connected to the operation. Every small detail, from the unusual layout of the corridors to the inconsistencies in staff testimonies, reinforced the growing belief that this was not an ordinary case of missing persons. Instead, it pointed toward a carefully orchestrated effort to hide unspeakable crimes behind an innocuous facade. As the investigation pressed on, the early clues laid the foundation for a legal confrontation that would eventually force the hidden atrocities into the public light. The determination of the investigators during these formative days set the stage for a relentless pursuit of truth, ensuring that no stone was left unturned in the quest to uncover the dark secrets behind the Murdercastle. The aftermath of the chilling events at the Murdercastle brought forth a wave of courageous testimonies from survivors and witnesses whose accounts would eventually help piece together the grim reality hidden behind its deceptive facade. Many of those who experienced firsthand the eerie atmosphere of the building recalled unsettling moments that defied rational explanation. One former staff member described how everyday sounds transformed into ominous whispers echoing through deserted halls, creating a persistent sense of dread. Their recollection detailed the unnerving discovery of concealed doors that led to dark, confining passages, a stark contrast to the building's polished public image. These early witness accounts, delivered with equal parts shock and resolve, provided the investigators with vital clues that something far more sinister was at play within the structure. Other individuals who survived encounters within the castle spoke of an environment designed to disorient and trap its occupants. One witness remembered being led, almost hypnotically, through a labyrinth of twisting corridors where every turn seemed to erase the boundary between safety and peril. Their narrative mentioned the bizarre interplay of light and shadow in spaces that were otherwise impeccably maintained, highlighting a deliberate effort to mask areas of danger. Such testimonies, though varied in detail, shared common themes of isolation, unexpected fear, and the overwhelming sense that the building was intentionally constructed to hide dark secrets. The accounts were delivered with a measured tone, reflecting both the trauma of their experiences and a determination to bring the truth to light. A number of survivors, despite their own profound distress, bravely recounted encounters that ultimately contributed to a broader understanding of the castle's hidden operations. Their stories spoke of sudden, inexplicable occurrences, a door that swung open on its own, a whispered conversation in an empty room, and fleeting visions of figures disappearing into narrow hallways. These shared elements of uncanny experience lent credence to the emerging picture of a facility where every carefully constructed detail served a darker purpose. In addition to personal observations, the consistency in these diverse accounts began to bridge gaps in the official narrative, reinforcing suspicions of systematic manipulation and secrecy. The collective voice of these witnesses and survivors not only provided a human dimension to the unfolding investigation but also underscored the resilience of those determined to overcome their trauma. Their detailed narratives became a cornerstone of the inquiry, transforming isolated incidents into a compelling tapestry of evidence against the deceptive operations of the Murdercastle. The courage displayed in coming forward, despite potential repercussions, ultimately ensured that the true extent of the building's horrors would be recognized, serving as a testament to the power of honest testimony in the quest for justice. After years of silent whispers and elusive clues, the veil of deception surrounding the infamous Murdercastle finally began to unravel, revealing a truth far more disturbing than anyone had dared to imagine. Investigators, driven by mounting evidence and relentless determination, embarked on an exhaustive inquiry that brought the hidden atrocities into the harsh light of day. In a series of meticulously planned raids and forensic examinations, the labyrinthine corridors and concealed compartments of the castle were methodically scrutinized. Hidden rooms that were once dismissed as mere curiosities turned out to harbor grim secrets. Personal belongings of lost victims, cryptic artifacts, and disturbing traces that pieced together the narrative of unspeakable horror. Each discovery served as a damning testament to Holmes's carefully orchestrated scheme, where the outward elegance of the building belied the carnage concealed behind its walls. Forensic experts worked tirelessly, charting the complex layout of secret passageways and trapdoors with painstaking detail. Their findings revealed an intricate network designed not only to confound routine inspections but also to facilitate a sustained series of crimes over many years. As evidence mounted, it became clear that the atrocities committed within these hidden chambers were part of a systematic pattern of manipulation, exploitation, and murder. The detailed maps and records compiled by the investigators left no room for doubt, confirming that the crimes extended far beyond isolated incidents. Families of those who had vanished without a trace finally received the long-awaited acknowledgement of their loss, and a collective grief turned into a demand for justice that resonated throughout the community. As news of the castle's dark secrets spread, public outrage quickly mounted. Media outlets seized upon the revelations, broadcasting the harrowing details across the nation and transforming the case into a national spectacle. The stark contrast between the castle's refined exterior and the depraved reality within ignited a firestorm of disbelief and horror. Citizens, who had once seen Chicago as a beacon of progress and modernity, were forced to confront a brutal reminder of the evil that could lurk beneath a polished surface. This public awakening catalyzed further legal and societal action, with authorities now fully committed to dismantling the network of deception that had allowed such crimes to flourish. Legal teams assembled an overwhelming dossier of evidence that linked Holmes directly to the unspeakable activities within the castle. The revelations prompted a cascade of legal actions, as prosecutors built a case that transformed the narrative from one of isolated anomalies into a systematic pattern of criminal behavior. The full scale of Holmes's depravity was now undeniable, marking a turning point in the investigation that would forever alter the collective memory of a community. Ultimately, the unveiling of these dark truths not only paved the way for a relentless pursuit of justice but also served as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition and the hidden perils behind even the most respectable facades. Following the explosive revelations uncovered during the investigation, legal proceedings against H. Holmes unfolded with a level of intensity and public scrutiny that few cases in American history have ever witnessed. The courtroom transformed into a theater of truth where each piece of meticulously gathered evidence, from the labyrinthine blueprints of his notorious castle to the compelling testimonies of survivors, was laid out to expose the calculated and premeditated nature of his crimes. As the trial commenced, the atmosphere was charged with a mix of solemnity and anticipation, with every participant acutely aware that the outcome would not only determine Holmes's fate but also serve as a potent symbol of justice in the face of extraordinary evil. Prosecutors methodically presented their case, detailing how Holmes's architectural ingenuity had been subverted into an instrument of terror. They introduced physical evidence that chronicled the building's hidden rooms, secret passages, and ingenious mechanisms designed to confuse and entrap unsuspecting victims. Expert witnesses testified about the forensic details, explaining how even the most minute traces left behind in the concealed corridors painted a damning picture of systematic exploitation and murder. The defense, meanwhile, attempted to sow doubt among the jurors by challenging the interpretation of these intricate details and questioning the reliability of some of the testimonies. They argued that the unusual architectural features might have been misinterpreted and that a media-fueled frenzy could have exaggerated the accounts provided by witnesses. However, the cumulative weight of incontrovertible evidence ultimately undermined these contentions. Throughout the proceedings, the presiding judge maintained a strict adherence to legal protocol, ensuring that every facet of the trial was conducted with the utmost fairness and transparency. The proceedings were marked by moments of intense drama, particularly during the presentation of eyewitness accounts that recounted the eerie, almost otherworldly experiences within the castle. These personal narratives resonated deeply with the jury, offering a human dimension to the otherwise clinical presentation of facts and figures. In closing arguments, the prosecution stressed that Holmes's deliberate manipulation of both architecture and human vulnerability represented a calculated abuse of trust and power, a message that reverberated powerfully in the charged courtroom. After several days of rigorous deliberation, the jury reached a verdict that unequivocally reflected the gravity of Holmes's transgressions. The sentencing phase was somber, as the judge delivered a judgment that not only underscored the severity of the crimes but also sent a clear message that the justice system would not tolerate the exploitation of human frailty for nefarious gain. The sentence, widely reported in the media, stood as a milestone in criminal jurisprudence, a testament to the legal community's resolve to confront and penalize even the most elaborate schemes of depravity. Ultimately, the trial and its outcome became a lasting reminder of the power of law and order to reclaim truth from the shadows, reinforcing the commitment to protect society from those who would subvert its values through cunning and cruelty. The evolution of media portrayals surrounding H. Holmes and his infamous Murdercastle transformed a gruesome series of events into an enduring legend that continues to captivate audiences today. Over time, newspapers and magazines of the era seized upon every sensational detail, amplifying the mysterious elements of Holmes's character and the intricate design of his building. As journalists raced to uncover every lurid facet of the story, their detailed accounts and dramatic headlines fed the public's fascination with macabre tales and often blurred the lines between factual reporting and creative embellishment. This early sensationalism not only fueled widespread curiosity but also laid the groundwork for a mythos that would grow in the decades to follow. The narrative of Holmes was steadily refined into a character who embodied the ultimate confluence of charm and horror. Media outlets painted him as both a master manipulator and a charismatic rogue, a persona that became the blueprint for future depictions of the archetypal serial killer in popular culture. The story of the Murdercastle, with its hidden rooms and labyrinthine passages, was dramatized with an almost cinematic flair, ensuring that every detail was memorably etched into the public consciousness. With each new retelling, the blend of factual investigation and imaginative interpretation intensified, allowing the myth to take on a life of its own and overshadow some of the more disturbing realities of the case. As the decades passed, books, documentaries, and films adopted and reinterpreted these early media portrayals, further solidifying the myth of H. Holmes as a figure of almost legendary proportions. The castle was no longer seen solely as a place of murder, but also as a symbol of the dark underbelly of American progress and ambition. The line between historical documentation and dramatic fiction blurred, giving rise to a narrative that was as much about the allure of mystery as it was about cold, calculated crime. In many ways, the continuous cycle of media reinvention both honored and obscured the truth, highlighting the public's enduring appetite for stories that mix reality with myth. The lasting impact of this media spectacle is evident in contemporary true crime podcasts, documentaries, and dramatized series, where the story of H. Holmes is frequently revisited with the same blend of horror and fascination that first captivated the nation. In retelling his story, modern storytellers must navigate a careful balance between respecting the gravity of historical events and engaging an audience that thrives on the thrill of true crime. This ongoing fascination underscores a broader cultural phenomenon: the transformation of historical tragedies into legends that serve as cautionary tales and as mirrors reflecting society's deepest fears. In the end, the media's role in mythologizing the Murdercastle has not only preserved the memory of its atrocities but has also shaped the enduring legacy of H. Holmes as an iconic figure whose dark story continues to be reimagined for new generations. The legacy of H. Holmes and his Murdercastle continues to reverberate in both criminal history and popular culture, serving as a chilling reminder of the capacity for manipulation and evil hidden behind a facade of normalcy. While the immediate aftermath of the trial and conviction brought some measure of justice, the true impact of Holmes's crimes cannot be fully appreciated without considering the broader psychological and societal implications of his actions. Holmes's ability to deceive and manipulate those around him, using charm, intellect, and architecture as tools of exploitation, demonstrates a disturbing reality: that evil often takes root in the least expected places, often masquerading as something entirely respectable. His case, like many others in the true crime genre, serves as a stark reminder that evil can often wear the mask of normalcy, hiding its true nature beneath layers of charm and plausibility. From a psychological perspective, Holmes's behavior provides valuable insights into the dark recesses of the human mind. His calculated use of manipulation, combined with his architectural ingenuity, demonstrates a high level of intelligence and creativity, qualities that he leveraged to exploit human vulnerability. The fact that he was able to maintain his facade of respectability for so long is a testament to his understanding of human nature, specifically, his ability to read people and exploit their weaknesses. This manipulation of trust and emotional vulnerability is one of the most disturbing aspects of the case, and it remains a common thread in many high-profile criminal cases. It highlights how easily an individual can become ensnared by someone who knows how to prey on their deepest fears and desires. Beyond the individual psychological horror of Holmes's crimes lies the broader societal impact. The case serves as a mirror to the period's rapid industrialization and urbanization, where the bustling growth of cities like Chicago led to both opportunity and chaos. In this environment of social upheaval, people were more easily preyed upon, particularly those who were newly arrived in the city or struggling with personal hardships. The very environment that fostered growth and innovation also created fertile ground for exploitation, as Holmes's actions illustrate. His ability to navigate and exploit these conditions for personal gain speaks to the darker side of progress, where societal changes can open the door to unforeseen dangers. The ongoing fascination with Holmes and his crimes speaks to the human tendency to seek answers to the unspeakable and to find meaning in tragedy. The Murdercastle, now a symbol of terror, continues to captivate audiences not just because of its macabre nature but because it encapsulates a fundamental fear that transcends time. That beneath the surface of everyday life, there may be hidden dangers lurking, waiting to be uncovered. This deep-seated fear of the unknown and the unpredictable is a central element of the true crime genre, one that allows us to grapple with the complexities of human nature, evil, and justice. As such, the story of H. H. Holmes will likely remain a fixture in the collective memory, both as a historical cautionary tale and as a symbol of the darker possibilities that lie beneath the surface of the world we know.